Right, well, into Stephen King territory. My favourite, well, one of my favourite things and authors. This was a strange sort of read, Finders Keepers, one of the most recent that I've read, not his most recent. Yeah, I kind of didn't know if I was enjoying it or disliking it or liking it. Like, I felt like I experienced a few different feelings of attachment and detachment from it in places. I'll tell you why it's a little bit odd. First of all, it's the second installment in the Bill Hodges Mr. Mercedes trilogy, so this is book 2. I'm currently reading book 3, which I'll tell you about probably in another few months by the time I get around to doing a quick review. It's set, well, actually, as you can see, it's got 3 different time periods at the back, so it's already a bit elaborate, and we're introduced to a number of new characters, so it's not just Bill Hodges, Holly and co. Brady isn't really in it. He's in a sorry, that was a bit of a spoiler if you haven't read any of this. He's not in it really for this book. He's the villain from the last book. Morris, who is this? He's evil, basically. He's selfish, egocentric. I think he's just raped someone. He's in prison for a while. Before he is in prison for this rape, he has actually murdered the iconic writer John Rothstein, who he is a massive fan of, and he breaks into his home, takes all his notebooks, unpublished manuscripts, etc., that he wants to have and read, and kills the man. He seems to get away with this, but he does go to prison for the other earlier crime. Then we meet a young boy by the name of Pete, and he finds the manuscripts which Morris has buried before he went to prison. In the boxes or the trunk of manuscripts that haven't been published, there's also a significant amount of money. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit, and that's kind of maybe the point that I'm getting at, is that this is the second installment in the Bill Hodges trilogy, and it is not until, wait for it, it is not until, they don't have regular chapter numbers, so it's not until page 135 that Bill Hodges appears in the novel. And then of course Holly and some of the gang appear, but even then we've got these 2 new characters which are well written and have good characterizations, but we're not spending a lot of time with these characters of Bill, etc., Hodges, who we've come to either root for or he's a bit annoying at times as well. He's a good, interesting character though, so we don't spend enough time with him. Just quickly, in the earlier part of the book, because it connects to another book that I've read recently, and I guess really Stephen King's life, because he did do some teaching for a while, I believe, before he went into writing full time. Like, I think it's about 70 pages in, and there's just this nice little description of Pete, the young lad. He's found these manuscripts, etc., and he reads them and likes them, but also his experience in his English class. So I think he writes a paper on one of them, and there's just some interesting dynamic with his teacher, and just the way King writes from this young lad's perspective, and his interest in fiction and writing and all of this type of thing, and his experience in his English class and relationship with his teacher. It's just really on point. It just captures it, because I've done it obviously in the past, and so has King. Yeah, it was a nice moment when you get to read something that's evocative and feels really authentic. Back to the narrative. So as the novel progresses, the 2 earlier characters and Hodges' storylines intertwine, and Hodge and co and Holly, etc., need to figure out what's going on with this young lad and help protect his family from Morris as he becomes released from prison. Gosh, he's a really nasty character. There's a bit of some ghastly violence in it about halfway through, I think it is, which is a little bit, kind of is a bit horror, but this is probably his least horror related book that I've read. Look, it's a bit hit and miss for me. I think Mr. Mercedes had some issues with too, I'm afraid. It was good and it was gripping, but it was a bit overly crass and hard to read some of the content sometimes, because this villain is so nasty in Mr. Mercedes, Brady Hartsfield. What would I give this? I don't know. On the whole, I'd still probably give Finders Keepers 3 Grisbys out of 5. I did still enjoy parts of it, and I am currently reading the third book, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my ideas about that because it is crazy.